Hey guys, this is Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist in New York. My website's attachmenthealinghelp.com, and today I want to talk about how different attachment styles show up in therapy, and maybe this will kind of help some of you guys out. So there's four attachment, I said five, four, there's only four attachment styles in general. There's secure attachment, and these people are fairly mythical. I haven't met too many of them. I think someone has like a blurry photograph one, maybe like a footprint of another. But these people are securely attached, and these people have no trouble relying on another person and being relied upon. They're completely secure because they're secure with themselves. They don't need a relationship. It's never compulsory. Then there's the avoidant. And the avoidant, he's someone in childhood that experienced some emotional neglect. And it need not be from bad parenting at all. I mean, I knew a woman, extraordinary woman, raised her kids by herself, and she worked like 16 hours a day. But her kids were left alone. And a little kid doesn't understand that, that she's out there providing. Little kid just knows mommy's not around. And so these people I saw were very avoidant, and basically they have needs, the big needs, the developmental needs in any relationship, but especially with children. A felt sense of safety, sense of being seen and known, being attuned to, experience of comfort, being able to be soothed by another person, sense of being valued, someone delights in me, and a sense of being supported, But for an avoidant, when they were a child, they would reach out to get their needs met, and nothing would happen. They'd get no response. Perhaps the parent wasn't attuned to the child. Perhaps the parent was busy. Who knows? And eventually, this child, to survive, says, you know what, these needs I have, I'm just going to dismiss them. I'm just not going to have them because it's too painful. And he kind of cloisters them off. But he's still in touch with them a little bit. But as adults, you see them, and they're kind of like, do I really need another person? I can kind of do things on myself, super independent, They don't care too much about what other people think about them. Then there's the anxious attachment, and that's the needy person, the person that's hypervigilant, scared of being abandoned. Because when they were kids, perhaps their parents were a little inconsistent, and so the child always had to be on the watch out. What's the parents doing? Had to be focused on them, not their own needs, on them. So when they grow up, it's terrifying because they have to constantly do what this other person wants, constantly look at their needs, constantly figure them out, meanwhile ignoring their own, And then the next is disorganized. Disorganized is a mix between anxious and avoidant. Their experience at childhood, they would go towards a parent. They wouldn't get soothing. They wouldn't get delight. A lot of times their experience would be fear, for whatever reason. And so now when they try to get intimacy, of course they want it, of course. But there's a fear there too. So sometimes they act this way, sometimes they're forward, sometimes they're back. They're very contradictory, And these four styles, they show up differently in therapy. I've never seen a secure person in therapy, so I don't know what that's like. But for example, the avoidant will come in, the avoidant is very disassociated from his feelings. So I'll constantly be saying, or you'll hear whoever, a coach, counselor, therapist, constantly be like, so what did that feel like? And the avoidant would be like, fine, like, oh, what does fine feel like? Okay. That there's never an emotion, and they're very disassociated from their bodies. So, how does that feel in your body? And boy, it's hard to get in touch, because they put those needs behind them, that they're not in touch with those feelings and those needs. So it's very difficult to get a feeling, have an avoidant. They're just not in touch with that, and it's wildly difficult. I'll ask again and again, like, oh, what that feeling, say more about that feeling. What does it really feel like? Where is it in your body? If that feeling told a story, oh boy, it's very hard to get in contact with. Also, they don't volunteer a lot of information. So, you could ask them, like, oh, how was visiting your parents? They're like, good. And if it's not good, they'd be like, okay. And, tell me what was good about it, what was okay about it. Well, it's just okay. It's fine. They volunteer such little information. You have to kind of pull it out. And this is called mentalization. When you realize, it's kind of thinking about thinking, you realize how your thinking is affecting the other person. But avoidance, rarely, we all do, but the example of the avoidance would be, they doesn't realize that they're really not communicating. There's not going to be a whole lot of communion if the other person doesn't get that information. Like you're saying so little. I really don't know what you're going through. How could I? And they can, and again, also they have very poor memories. Big component of memory is affect. We're not movie cameras. We experience things emotionally. And that affect is missing, which interferes with memory. So, and they don't want to do it. Why would they? They'll get insulted sometimes. And it makes perfect sense. So you can ask them, like, oh, wow, how were you as a child? It was fine. Parents are fine. They're good. Well, how would you describe your mother? Loving. What was so loving about her? And they're like, she made me cereal. Just these very abstract. They never really put it together, and they don't want to go there. I don't blame them, but they just don't want to go there. Even if they're in therapy, you go there, you're like, well, give me some descriptions of your mother. And I've had people look at me and be like, do I have to do this? Well, if you're in therapy, boy, you think just a little bit about your folks. Perhaps I can, help me. But they don't see the point, and they dismiss it. That's why they're avoidant, dismissive avoidant, fearful avoidant. They avoid, They just dismiss their own needs, dismiss that. Why is that important? That's not important. I don't see how it's important, And so if you're an avoidant and you show up, you can really make that effort to speak more, to go into these things that, of course, you dismiss, but perhaps they are important. The anxious person who comes in, anxious attachment, those are the people that are hypervigilant, So perhaps your friends are anxious and you want to get to know them, but they always throw it back on you, You try to get to know them. Hey, so how was your week? Good. How was your week? They always ask questions, but how was this relationship? How's that? They want to know all about you, and it's hard to get to know them. It's like, well, forget about me. Right now, I just, your needs. What do you need? They just want to please the other person. It depends how extreme it is, but it can get very extreme where they don't care anything about themselves as long as they please the other person. And but it's hard if they're in a relationship for the other person to trust them, because they never know if this person is authentic. The person might just be saying X, Y, and Z to please, but they really don't feel X, Y, and Z. Just for example, I knew someone, this wonderful woman, and her husband would come home, and she'd cook, and be like, do you like it? And he'd just be like, good. Every time it'd be good. Yeah, I love it. I love every meal he loved. Well, no, you can't love every single meal. Just be honest. Some I'm sure you love more than others. Be honest, But no, he had to please. Well, she would rather actually please him, no. So she had a hard time trusting him, even with dinner. Try to have a relationship. So that's that. And if they come to therapy, it's very hard to stay on them. They want to know about you, and they want to know you're pleasing you. That's tough, though, because, anxious people, if they go with people, they should really just be honest, So a therapist might say, like, oh, well, how is it? And they'll be like, oh, it's amazing, geez. Since I started, I'm a completely new person. And, oh, you're amazing. It's like a miracle. I can't believe how transformed I am. Because, they think that's what someone wants to hear, But, of course, what a counselor, therapist wants to hear is, what's really going on. If it doesn't work, if you're completely, hey, let us know, The disorganized person is someone who is fearful and brings that fear in. And it can go both ways. And they have very good reasons to be mistrustful. And I've had a few people, come in and they say, like, I don't trust you. Which is great. I'm not big on trust. You're like, oh yeah, it's a complete stranger. Just trust him with your secrets there. I'm not into that. Like, no. Just little tokens of trust, just a little bit, and see how this person reacts, I mean, that's how you should be in all relationships, Just a little bit and see where it goes. Don't trust, you see where it goes and then make a decision, And so that's pretty wise. These are very wise parts that the disorganized has, that mistrust, because it's important. A lot of people they couldn't trust, and they'll have like resistances and whatnot. I really don't believe in resistances. I just don't. I know what people talk about, but it's like, no, they're just being sensible. Like if you were in their head, they're just being sensible. It's what a sensible person with their experiences would do. They would resist. Yeah, of course. They're not going to open up their heart and their mind to a stranger. This would be foolish. It'd be foolish if they did it as a child. So, for the disorder, I say, like, don't trust. Like, don't do anything that's uncomfortable. Whatever you're comfortable with, and just watch me. And if I make a mistake, that happens, hopefully tell me, and I would be really honest, because I hear that, complain, like, my therapist, I don't trust them, this guy, tell them, like, just tell them, just like, yeah, I really think you're misunderstanding me, I don't think you know where I'm coming from, tell them, just be honest, that helps things. So there's a couple other things, but that's how patients show up to therapy. That's a different attachment styles, and maybe they'll give you like a little bit of insight, but I appreciate you guys spending a couple minutes with me and listening. Thank you, and take it easy.